Hello, hello, hello. What is up, guys? We are checking out a clip from Andrew Wilson's channel, which is reviewing Pearl, debating Michael Knowles. I kind of like Pearl in the sense that she just says the red pill talking points like verbatim, whereas a lot of the other guys will try to like smush their own ideology in there. They'll try to be like, yeah, but I think it should be like this. I want to import orthodoxy into it, and or Islam into it. And then you got Pearl, who's just literally just shamelessly regurgitating fucking red pill talking points straight into her speech. She'll literally just pull, like, here's how Pearl's brain works. She thinks, okay, let me review the 100 hours of Rollo Tomasi footage that I have in my brain and all the hundreds of studies I've looked at, and let me see which one is a relevant rebuttal or counter argument to whatever my opponent just said. And then she basically has a library of counter arguments and studies. And then she just, oh yeah. Oh wait, most women aren't marriageable. Boink. And then she just throws it at her opponents. And she has like 100 of these that she just uses for every debate and just keeps reusing them. It's quite hilarious to watch. But it actually works, is the funny part. It's the most ramshackle argument strategy I think I've ever seen. But it like unironically works because it's pretty faithfully stolen. But anyway, let's get into it.
Okay. So,
oh yeah, by the way, this is a clip, so it's not the full thing. It's just, I want to keep the content short. I don't want to ramble for too long. So this is just a clip from the Crucible channel. So don't hurt me.
this is kind of nuts of Knowles to say. He just got done saying liberal women are not marriageable. Right? If he has that stance and he's saying do not marry women who are liberals or progressives, period, then basically he has to make the claim that most women are not marriageable.
Okay, I mean, yeah, he's right. But, I mean, don't most guys already know most women aren't marriageable? Not even because they're progressive, but because they're not virgins. They're not, they're on drugs, they're obese. Do guys really care what her political ideology is? Do you think most guys really care? Do you think that's why the red pill says, I mean, it is it's a reason that the red pill says why most modern women aren't marriageable. But I don't think it's a big reason. Like, if I had to pick between a conservative woman with a bunch of drug addictions and a huge body count and a bunch of tattoos and piercings versus a virgin progressive liberal woman with a BMI under 22 and no COVID shot, yeah, I'm taking the virgin liberal every single fucking time. And I guarantee you every other guy is too. If you had a hot liberal versus a butch conservative, everyone's taking the hot liberal. Guys don't care about a woman's political ideology, I'm sorry, generally. So I found that a little bit funny because he's like, that basically means that most women aren't marriageable. Holy shit, we arrived at it. The gold mine. It's like, yeah, we already knew most women aren't marriageable, but for completely different reasons, because they're fat.
Just look at the voting patterns of women, right? Look at the voting patterns of women.
Holy shit.
Most of them vote and lean towards the progressive
They
ideology.
vote liberal.
So he kind of has to admit that
Holy
most
shit.
of them are not marriagegeable by his own logic.
70% of women. Sometimes I think you guys are so out of touch.
I don't think
like 70%. You want a fat wife? It's like, come on.
Wait, does Pearl look weird to you? She looks like she's getting older or something. I think the YouTube shekels are like slowly destroying her soul just because look at her eyes, man. Like, let me go back. How the fuck do I go back? How do I go back?
So out of touch.
I don't think
like 70%.
Look at this. The fuck is this face? She looks. Damn. The shekels and the YouTube fame are doing a number on her face. Anyway, let's get into it.
You want a fat wife? It's like, come on, no, guys. This is what you're telling men to sign up for.
Why? What I'm telling them. I guess what I'm.
And that's my point. It's not the majority. And when is the last time you dated? like 10 years. You've been
A long
married for a
time.
while. So
Long time.
sometimes you talk, and I just think you're a bit out of touch with
You're
the
saying
current
I'm
dating
okay.
world.
No, that's fair. You're saying
You know, 'cause I
I
could
never
say this-
swiped. I never did any of these things.
Correct,
that
and I'm
modern people
saying,
do.
I've interviewed 1,000 women. I could give you examples in real life too. I mean, that's a ton of people, Michael.
Sure.
So,
Sure. I have no doubt that
Yeah.
the dating pool is difficult now. But
and the problem is that the state is the legal enforcement arm.
Well, that's by definition. That's
Correct. So there's no way for a man to get married in 2020.
That's not.
Okay, before Andrew gives his take, this is probably my general contention with marriage, is it's fundamentally not marriage anymore for multiple reasons. Mostly, like, if I had to break down why is marriage no longer marriage, why doesn't it work, what's going on, it's really the government has violated the masculine role of marriage. And the way it's done that, and you say, oh, Chronic would say something like, Undead Chronic would say, women aren't virgins. And I'm like, okay, but you'll have to admit, Chronic, that women aren't really supposed to administer and adjudicate their own sexual liberty. That's the role of their fathers, right? So really, even in terms of that is a that is an abuse, or that is a destruction, that is the sin really of the father not being allowed to have control over his daughter's freedom, sexual freedom, and not being able to protect her until marriage. So really all of it breaks down to men's role in marriage has been violated. A violation, there you go, that was the word I was looking for. But really what you have is you have a violation of men's natural, biological, theological role in marriage. And that's done by the state. The state is the main enforcement arm behind this entire apparatus of shattered marriages. And I could get into the thousands of ways. I'll do a video on it probably. I want to start doing some... I'd like to do some scripted content. You know, I want to try some live streaming. I want to do some scripted content. I want to do some reactions. I want to do a little bit of everything. I want to try what it's like, see what kind of content forms I like. So probably do a scripted video on why marriage currently doesn't work. And it will never work until we fix some of the fundamental problems with the ontology of marriage. But anyway, let's hear Andrew Wilson's rebuttal. I have no clue what he's going to say.
Not by definition always true.
24 without being entered into the state contract.
But that's always.
And so
That has not always been true.
I understand, but I understand men's hesitation when the quality of
Why is he saying that? That has not always been true.
women has gone down.
But what if,
I don't tell men.
Let me go back. I think I missed something. Sorry, guys.
I understand men's hesitation.
by definition, that's
Correct. So there's no way for a man to get married in 2020.
That's not by definition always true.
State is the enforcement arm. Yeah, that's technically not true. Yeah. I mean, it could be not true. I mean, it's true currently, but...
Correct. So there's no way for a man to get married. And the problem is that the state is the legal enforcement arm.
Well, that's by definition. That's
Correct. So there's no way for a man to get married in 2024
That's not by definition always true.
without being entered into the state contract.
But that's always.
And so
That has not.
Oh, he's talking about marriage. He's talking about the state being the enforcement arm of marriage. I think there's a disconnect. Andrew Wilson's referring to something else, whereas Michael Knowles is just talking about the state as a whole being the enforcement arm, which is actually not necessarily true. Andrew is right. There have been plenty of we'll take marriage as an example. The church used to adjudicate and delegate fuck, I don't know, my lexicon's breaking down. Arbitrate, arbiter, verb. What's the arbiter form? To arbitrate. It is arbitrate. I knew it. It was arbitrate. Okay. To arbitrate the proceedings of the marriage used to be up to the church, not the state. So this whole like, oh, it's always been according to the state. The state has always been the enforcement arm behind marriages. No, it hasn't.
Always been true.
I understand, but I understand men's hesitation when the quality of
Why is he saying that? That has not always been true.
women has gone down.
But what if-
I don't tell men not to get married or like what to do. I think every man has to decide for themselves. But I don't think you're going to win a lot of support, or I think you have to understand the problem in order to come up with a solution.
So you are telling men, at the very least, you're observing that it is not advisable today in 2024 to get married.
I don't like this phrasing. I don't like this. Michael Knowles and Matt Walsh, they do. It's a risk, guys. I know it's a risk, but it's always been a risk, and you got to do it for the betterment of society, and it's your duty, and God hates bachelors, and I know it's a risk. It's always been a risk. It's like comparing the risk of a plane crash, when you fly Spirit Airlines, versus the risk of like getting shot in Russian roulette. It's like there's a difference between an acceptable amount of societal risk getting into a contract. That's what they want to break it down to, is these Michael Knowles, Matt Walsh, Ben Shapiro types, is these conservacucks, is they want to just say, oh, it's just, yeah, there's some risk. There's risk in every contract. It's just part of life. Get over it. But it's like, they're likening it to a basic contract with the risk that, your business deal could go south, when it's more like you're having a gun given to your partner and they can just pull it whenever they want, and they get a bunch of your money every time that they pull it. So it's like, is it really fair? And it's basically Russian roulette, because literally the consequence of marriage is you lose all your money. She dissuades all the friend groups that you have to convince them that you're evil, so you lose all your friends. You lose a bunch of your money. You split all your assets. You lose the house. You split the children. Ruin the family. And no more sex. And your love life's ruined. And a bunch of money in lawyers' fees. Yeah, and it's just it's basically a bullet to the head, and that's why you see a lot of these guys actually unaliving themselves after yeah, I don't want to get banned off YouTube yet, so I'll decide when I want to get banned. So I'll use their stupid lingo. Unaliving, so that's why you see middle-aged men, a lot of them after divorces, unaliving themselves, because it's pretty equatable to a bullet to the head, and then sometimes a real bullet to the head is often a worthwhile answer to all of that. But yeah, these Michael Knowles, Matt Walsh, Ben Shapiro types are just trying to portray it as like, oh, it's just a risky contract, bro. But everything's risky, bro. But think of the sex. Think of the love, the womanly love. You think of the loneliness. It's like, I don't know, Michael.
Say that every man has to pick for himself. But I think objectively, if me and you sign a contract and one of us is paid to leave, you would never sign that business deal. You would never sign it.
I did, right. If you're saying that's the state of marriage now, I did get married, therefore I did.
Yeah, cucks exist. I mean, that's really the answer to any of this, is like, yeah, men are cucks. Men are literally masochists when it comes to marriage. Unironically, you can't even make the argument that men aren't masochists when it comes to, because Pearl's right. There is no financial there's no like objective reason, self-interested reason for a guy to sacrifice and put his money and his life and his secrets and his vulnerable heart out on the line, other than just like if you think about it logically, right? Think about it like, step back. I know you really want a woman to commit to. I know you want someone to spill your heart out to. But if you just take a step back with me and you think about it logically, you should really be asking the question, okay, why? Why do I need someone to be vulnerable to? Why do I need to spill all my deepest, darkest secrets to? Why do I need someone I give all my money to? Why do I feel the urge within me to donate all my money to a whore? Why am I a masochist, right? Well, that's how I see it. I don't know if some guys are like, you're weird, man. You're seeing it pretty weird. That's how I see it. I'm like, you're just giving up free money for free. Men don't ask much from women. They're not asking women to fucking pay it back. They're just offering shit. And you say, oh, they're generous. It's like, are they though? Are men generous? Is it a conscious donation, or is it like they're simps for women, and then they want to just dump all of their things out to women, and they want to be taken advantage of? And yeah, and you can't even argue with my point when you look at it from like the Hollywood standard. Like you look at all these spicy movies and these spicy James Bond scenes in modern Hollywood, and it's literally like the girl taking fucking advantage of the guy, and the guy is like, oh, she's so hot, she just took all my money. Like what's that? There's a scene in The Dark Knight with the Catwoman, something like that. It's scenes like that where you're like, okay, so clearly there's something going on here where men just enjoy being taken advantage of. It's romantic. You know, how'd that become a thing? It's suddenly romantic to get taken advantage of. A woman takes all my money, you know. I put my heart and my vulnerability out on the line. I hand my woman a loaded gun so she can shoot me whenever she wants. I give her a ring worth thousands of my dollars, such that she can leave me. We tie our assets together. It's this romanticization of basically masochism, and I don't really understand it. I find it degenerate, you know. Me personally, I look at that and I go, why would you want to lay on the ground in front of your woman, you know? Why would you want to hurt yourself for her sake? Because you're a simp. Because we're full of cucks and simps in the world, ladies and gentlemen. You have to realize that this is shameful. This is disgusting. When you see your male friend getting all his puppy dog eyes and he starts becoming Mr. Guy friendly, as soon as the women come around, he completely changes up his character. I know you've seen this before, guys. You got that one male friend. He's the most stoic, masculine badass in front of all of his guy friends, and then he's Mr. Chippy friendly, makes an idiot of himself, self-deprecating in front of the girls. And you have to look at that with contempt and disgust for what it is, because it's disgusting, it's masochism, it's degeneracy, it is simping, it is cuckoldry, and we need to stomp it out and socially ostracize it at every turn that we get. So all the way back to the beginning, Michael Knowles, why do men get married? Is because men are masochist cucks. That's the answer. There's something deep within men which tells them to submit and commit all their resources to women for the survival of the species against their own self-interest, because biology needed it to be that way. So there you have it.
You did sign it.
Okay, well, congrats.
Isn't that a dunk on himself?
Yeah, that's also not really an argument. It's like saying, you wouldn't make this business deal if it meant you died. Yeah, but I did. Yeah, it just makes him look like an idiot. You're right, Andrew.
Congratulations, but I think a lot of men are going to be hesitant to do that.
And you're saying it's
Yeah.
it's rational for them to be hesitant.
Yes.
So you're saying it's advisable,
No, not advisable.
but
I'll make the claim. Because Pearl doesn't want to commit to that. In the year 2024,
You should not get married.
for most men,
Don't get married.
over 50%, it is not advisable to enter into a marriage contract.
Oh, fuck you. Just say don't get married. It is not advisable to enter into a marriage contract. No, just don't get married. I'll say it. I'll be better than Andrew. Don't fucking get married. Well, I'll say this. You should not be even allowed to get married if you do not practice your faith and belong to a church community, because marriage is a sacrament, motherfuckers. It belongs to the church. It's not something you secularist, agnostic fuckwads who are like, yeah, I don't really believe in that superstitious crap. Yeah, I don't believe in God. God is for the superstitious losers. Oh, but I've been married to my wife for 20 years. That's a religious institution, you fuckwad. We own that. You come in here using our fucking sacraments, come into our church, stealing our language, meaning, truth, transubstantiation. All of... Oh, I get mad sometimes. It's like, if you want to play atheist and you want to play agnostic and you don't like the church, that's great. Yeah, but then you're not allowed to get married. You're not allowed to use the word like heaven and hell. Oh, what the hell? Oh, that's a Christian word. And I know that's kind of a meme to say that, but yeah. Marriage is a Christian Catholic sacrament, and anyone who engages in an actual marriage otherwise is really a fraud and is using a cheap heretical copy of that and should be shamed for being a hypocrite. Imagine calling yourself an atheist, imagine calling yourself an agnostic, making fun of Christians for being superstitious, and yet you get married to your partner. Oh, it's just a ceremony. Didn't mean anything. She just wanted to. I don't really care. Yeah, they just steal our rituals and our traditions as if they're just fucking a piece of cake that you take and eat, as if it's nothing, as if it's something you just do, part of your scrapbook, something you hang on your wall, as if there's no meaning or purpose behind any of it. It's fucking disgusting. It's like atheists who will be like, oh, I don't believe in the Christian paradigm. Oh, what year were you born? 1986. And you're like, oh, and what happened 1986 years ago? Oh, what happened? Was it that Muhammad was born? No. Was it any of the Abrahamic faiths? No. It was Jesus. And it's actually a specific calendar called the Gregorian calendar by Pope Gregory the 9th. Fuck, I'm going to get that wrong. It's going to be the 8th. Let me look that up. Fuck, it was... No, 13th. 13th. I was way off. But anyway, it was Pope Gregory. And all to say that... Sorry about my rant, guys. I'm sorry. But my point was that if you're not a practicing Christian... I would say practicing Catholic if we're really being serious. But at least, at the very minimum, if you're not a practicing, believing Christian, you shouldn't be getting married because you're literally just stealing a sacrament of matrimony, which doesn't belong to you, and participating in the ceremony should have no meaning to you. It shouldn't mean anything. It should be a non-statement because you don't accept the Christian paradigm, and the meaning and purpose of marriage is embodied and entrenched in the Christian paradigm. So it makes no fucking sense to even do it. It'd be like if I started doing the habubu ritual of the ancient Norse pagans. It means nothing to me, right? It means nothing to you. So why would you even partake in that culture at all? And start doing their rituals as if they mean something. So that's what I see when these people, secularists in general, agnostics, get married. I'm just like, what are you doing? Like, you're stealing our culture. You're making a fool of yourself. And yeah, I'll do you one up, Andrew Wilson. Yeah, you shouldn't be getting married, period. Like 95% of men should not be getting married. 95% of women should not be getting married. Why? Because marriage is to raise and have children. That's the other part of marriage nobody really talks about is it's not just about a man and a woman coming together. It's about having kids. And most of you guys are not fit to have children. I'll just say it. Most of you all should not reproduce. Most of you shouldn't reproduce. Like, who's actually the noble people in this scenario are the people who go, I would make a terrible parent. I'm addicted to a bunch of drugs. I shouldn't have kids. I'm going to opt out of the gene pool. That's really where you should be. Like, most people should be in that crowd. I don't want kids because I would ruin them and I would give them a childhood like I have. It's like good. Most of you people belong in that category. Shouldn't even be looking at marriage. But anyway, back to ranting.
I'll just state it plainly. It is not advisable for most men in the year 2024 to enter into a marriage contract. It's not a good idea. That's why this guy should be promoting covenant marriage.
Every man, like, okay, I'll give you an example. I'm not here. I think men have had enough of women telling them what to do. I'm not telling men to do anything. But I think your situation is going to be completely different than the average Joe making $45,000 a year.
Okay, I've heard the Pearl argument before. Like, I know all of Pearl's 100 talking points. I've heard them only 5 trillion times. I don't know really what Michael Knowles' argument is. It just kind of sounds like the typical conservacuck argument, which is, it's your duty to get married and, man up. And I know it's a risk, but do it anyway. There's only a 1/6 chance you'll get shot by the revolver. That's not that bad. Actually, it's actually less than marriage, which is 50% chance. It's only 14% versus. So it's funny. It's actually Russian roulette has a lower risk of fatal injury to your wallet. But yeah.
If your marriage goes south, you have the money to afford lawyers.
I have the money, but I'm going to lose half my money.
What? But do you think you're in the same position as the average man making $45,000 a year? The answer is no.
No, but
the answer is no.
I don't think it's because of my money, though. You know what I think it's because, well, look, when I got married, I didn't have a lot of money, but now I have more money.
No.
But I think there's a bigger distinction here,
Okay.
which is I am of a religious view and practice that does not recognize the reality of divorce. Not only do we discourage it,
You don't recognize okay, I just realized how stupid that was. You don't recognize the reality of divorce. That's like saying, the reason I participate in... That's so stupid. That's so stupid. Oh, this is so stupid. I'm not even going to explain it. I'm going to let Andrew fucking make a fool of this guy.
I'm a mackerel-snapping papist, a member of the Catholic faith.
I'm Catholic, too.
Why you make fun of Catholics all the time, Andrew? Because of the insane shit that this guy is saying right now.
You're Catholic also.
I'm also Catholic.
So, marvelous news. Yeah. We do
and
not...
Catholics are not immune to...
Okay, so this is stupid. This is really stupid. I thought Andrew was going to make fun of him properly, but saying I don't believe in the reality of divorce to men who get divorced is the stupidest thing ever. It's not even going to protect you just because you're Catholic. The argument you should be saying is, well, I'm a Catholic, therefore I'm going to marry a Catholic woman, and therefore she's more likely to have the belief that you shouldn't get a divorce. So she'll be less likely to divorce me because she has that in her faith. That's really the argument he should be making. But really he just said, I don't believe in divorce. Therefore divorce can't affect me because I don't believe in it. Don't you see? I don't believe in money. So when the IRS comes to take my money, I go, I don't believe in money. When I go to the 7-Eleven to buy my pack of cigarettes, I go, I don't believe in money, man. Money's just paper, bro. Give me the cigarette.
The divorce, I have seen it. I've seen people getting married for the second time.
Yeah, but we just pretend it never happened.
I don't believe in physics, bro. I don't believe in bullets. What are bullets gonna do? Kill me? I don't believe in death. I don't believe in death and life and death. I don't believe in any of that. I'm gonna reincarnate.
We just
as a fucking Michael Knowles.
Pretend that it never happened. We pretend that our 12 kids and marriage that we had for 20 years just never happened.
They'll get communion, and the number of annulments is going up.
That's not licit.
I know, but it doesn't matter because it happens all the time.
But you can,
and so it's totally.
I see someone who calls himself.
We have a record number of annulments this year in the Catholic Church. You cannot. The Catholic Church.
That's true. Yeah, Catholics will just use annulments. Yeah. And there's plenty of reasons for. It's kind of like legal proceedings where there's a lot of ways in which you can get an annulment in the church. So like women will just the finances will be poor or it'll be abusive, and then they'll get an annulment for a completely different reason. So they're they're basically divorced is what they are. They just function as divorce.
Church is getting more you see the Pope, and I think we could agree on this stuff.
The Pope for all of the liberal statements that have appeared in the press under his name. The Pope is generally...
That's a pretty disgusting glaze over of the atrocities committed by the fucking current Pope Francis. Is absolute heresy. I don't know if you can just his liberal statement. No, buddy. That's like saying their child love making. It's like, no, bro.
really pretty good on matters of sex and marriage.
Yeah, I'm with Andrew on this one. Me and Andrew are like, what the fuck? You just said that? That was the weakest, most glazy statement I've ever heard in my life. What the fuck?
What? What? He's what? The guy who was like, yeah, go bless the gay marriage. Really? Okay.
Yeah, calling actual heresy liberal statements is like, that's fucking hilarious. I don't even know what to say to that.
Oh, okay. I mean, I feel like this guy's racking up his own L's here.
He's pretty clear. When you say...
he's not really pretty clear. Okay, not really very clear.
You know, Catholics get divorced. It has happened. There's a distinction between an annulment.
It's around, I looked it up before this, it's around 25, 35.
So that's how, yeah.
It's around, yeah, it's around 35%. And so that's not a small
average,
percentage.
What's the national average? Like 45% roughly? So...
Well, 2024 it was 50.
Okay,
so I know everyone splits hairs over like the 5.
No. Make your argument, Michael. What are you gonna say? Are you gonna say it's less than the average and therefore it's good? I really hope that isn't the only argument you were gonna make.
10%, but regardless, it's not small.
So what that means then is that if you're a man, and I totally grant that dating pool's tough and the economy's tough and the divorce courts are terrible and divorce laws are terrible,
but they should sign up anyway.
Well, yeah, no, before we even get to that.
Okay.
Before we get to that, one way to mitigate one's risk in marriage of divorce would be to be just any old Catholic, right? Because
this is so stupid. Oh my fucking God. He didn't just say that, bro. That's so stupid. Oh my God. I don't even know where to begin. Like, please, Andrew, save me.
Reduce the likelihood of divorce by 16% immediately.
Please save me.
Big problem with this argument. Yes, you may mitigate the risk of divorce by, 15% is pretty substantial. Okay.
Yeah, you might reduce your Russian roulette chance of getting shot by adding an extra, shot in your revolver. So now it's a 7-shot instead of a 6-shot. Yeah, that'll fix it. Yeah, you can reduce it by fucking 10% of having your head blown off. That might do it.
Still pretty high. Okay, but yes, it does seem like it will maybe mitigate divorce. But it doesn't actually do anything for the mass quantity of men who are going through divorce, who are Catholic, and who are having the same type of kind of outcome that people who are not Catholic having. Why does Knowles endorse state marriage?
This is also dumb because you can't just become a Catholic and then that's going to make your marriage, it's going to fix your marriage. The reason Catholic marriages don't divorce as much is because they live in a faith community which has a belief system and a community around them which doesn't believe in divorce as strongly. And they have the faith to keep them grounded in their community around them. So it's not like you can just call, it's kind of like just saying, I convert to Christianity right before you die. That's not how it works. It's the whole process of repenting and the faith and all that. It's really the community, I think, around the faith which keeps the marriage intact more than just randomly jumping into a statistic at the last minute to save yourself from marriage or save yourself from divorce, So it's like you would have to actually become a real Catholic. So you'd have to start going to church. You'd have to become ingrained with the community. Then you'd have to actually adopt the precepts of the church and understand the marriage and how it fundamentally works and the theology. And Here's a better idea: date virgins.
To begin with. Like, why is that? I don't get it. Why does he even care? If you're making the because you're Catholic, it's better. Why do they need to still sign the state contract?
16 percentage points, much more than 16% from the 50% number. So then, what if you're a Muslim?
Okay.
Divorce rates among Muslims, even a little lower, 30%.
Okay.
Divorce rates among Orthodox Jews, 30, as low, there's a lot of different kind of Jews, but it goes down to as low as 10.
I like how we're saying that like 30% chance of divorce is a low number. Like only 1 in 3, bro. I mean, you're more likely to be part of the 2 than the 1. You know, it's like really like this should be still catastrophic. You're picking hairs over this. You're like, it's so stupid.
And then you get down to a little more the old school Catholics, which is kind of how I practice. There aren't great numbers on it.
Do you go to Latin Mass?
Traditional Latin Mass,
Okay.
the like.
Yeah.
That's
a lot of patience.
It's a,
Yeah,
but
that's
frankly,
a tough
I
one.
find it.
No, it's good. It's good. Latin Mass.
I don't know. I kind of don't like the idea that, oh, I go to a specific type of service, therefore I'm more religious. I think the idea that going to service, you know, like somehow reflects your is supposed to be a signal of your religiosity is kind of dumb to me. Because there's a lot of fuckers who sit in pews who don't know shit about the theology of the church teachings. They just sit in the pew. I mean, plenty of priests and pastors won't even talk about abortion. They won't even talk about these other controversial issues of the church. They won't talk about contraception. They won't talk about, you know, political issues. They won't talk about other faiths. They won't talk about... There's just certain issues they won't talk about. So it's like, even if you just sat in a pew all day, there's like a huge swath of things you would just never know. So I hate this thing that the Christians do where they're like, yeah, well, I go to the Latin Mass. I sit for an hour and a half in the pew. It's like, great, well, what'd you actually do? Did you go do any of the corporal works of mercy? Did you go clothe the naked and, you know, feed the poor and feed the hungry and take care of the sick and the dying? Like, did you actually go do anything, or you just sit in a pew? Oh, and you sat in the nice pew as opposed to the dirty regular pew. So that makes you like a primo Christian. It's just dumb. I'm just like, why is the value of your Christianhood or Christendom measured by what mass you go sit in at Sunday? It seems dumb.
It's a little better.
It seems like it goes faster than the shorter.
No, it's a little bit better in the Latin Mass. I'd agree.
But you know, when it comes to divorce, the numbers are a little sparse here. It's like 5 to maybe 10%.
But the problem is with most of those stats, one, most of those studies were done before social media. Anyone that dated before and after social media knows it completely changed the game.
Good point.
How do you mean?
Well,
that's true. I can't even argue with that. My only counter argument might be that most traditional Catholics who are actually Catholic aren't on social media. But then your argument would really be that anyone who just, well, look at Mormon, look at Orthodox Jew, they have some of the lowest divorce rates. Like, if you actually look at it, it seems like, how do you actually have a successful marriage? Keep your wife away from social media. That would really be your argument. Disconnect your community from the culture and have a strong internal community. That seems to be the better protective mechanism than any specific theology or marriage. Is just have your community, like Mormons or what are the other ones? Amish, right? Orthodox Jews, you know, Latin Mass, PPX, Catholics. And then have them disconnect from the culture. So that means get them off phones, get them off social media, get them in their own communities, and then that seems to actually fix the divorce rates. That's what I would say personally, is just disconnect from the hedonistic secularist culture, however you can do that.
well,
The hell does he mean? How do you mean?
women now have access to men anywhere. And cheating and goes dating. You know, the number one way people are meeting under 30 is dating apps.
Yep.
You know, I mean, this.
It's weird that Michael Knowles is asking for more clarification on how did social media completely make a clusterfuck out of modern dating. It's like, you don't know that? Like I have to explain to you how phones and social media, aren't you old boomers, the fuckers who are constantly bitching about how phones were going to ruin the next generation of children, how phones are the devil, and you know, need to limit your screen time to 30 seconds every day and fucking these crazy rules. Yeah, of course, phones and social media made a complete clusterfuck of Generation Z and Generation Alpha. Shouldn't have to explain that.
This is a completely different dating marketplace than when you were dating.
Though I guess
And that's my point.
when I was dating,
there's no Catholic woman in divorce court. Women will throw out their religion very, very fast when they want to leave. You cannot pray a woman that wants to leave you into not leaving you.
I think you don't the statistics I just cited show that you can?
No, they don't.
Is the
No,
divorce
but the
rates are so
problem
much-
with
They would actually affirm Pearl's point. The religion acts as a buffer, and that possibly due to the environmental factors, she does not want to leave you. But that does not mean that just you deciding, well, I'm going to pray really hard and hopefully she doesn't leave if she wants to, probably not going to work.
those is they include women over a certain age. The women under the age of 35
You're saying
have
it's
been on. So yes, it's
Yeah.
completely different.
Yeah, I don't know.
And I
mean,
think you can't really deny it with what you've seen. Like, you go on whatever podcast. Are those the same women of our grandmothers and great grandmothers? No, it's completely different.
there's not a ton of
Michael.
Orthodox Jews and traditional Catholics on that podcast, but I
You know,
and perhaps
and
there's
if-
a reason for that.
And you know, you gotta
Well,
ask.
okay, the problem is, like, you can't just join Orthodox Jew tomorrow. And even if you did, it's not like you're instantly going to get the benefits that culture brings. Because really, what is... Like, a marriage is not just a thing in of itself. The success of a marriage is dependent on everything working. It depends on the man being a good man. It depends on the woman being a good woman. It depends on the community having a good community. It depends on the economy, because the biggest risk for divorce is financial suffering and financial tension, right? So you need a good economy. You need houses. You need a community around you which supports you. You need a religious institution which works in your favor and your benefit. You need to keep out potential absolute clusterfucks and bombshells in a marriage, like the woman having a massive body count, the man being abusive, which comes from like broken households, addictions. What might be something else? Addictions, weak father figures, religious communities not being there, finances. That's kind of it, I guess. That's kind of it. But my point is that the strength of a marriage is dependent, because it's the bedrock of society. It depends on everything else going well. It needs multiple things to all be working in sync like a well-oiled machine at the same time to have healthy marriages and have healthy dating. It's not just a random coincidence that you can just become Orthodox Jew, bro. That'll fix everything. It's like the reason Orthodox Jews and Catholics and these groups succeed with their marriages is not because of the theology. It's not because of their belief system per se, so much as it is the community that they belong to and the benefits that come from being in a religious community and having these true beliefs which are truly integrated to their core, into their being, which help strengthen themselves as people, and they have other people to rely on too. And it's so much more complicated than just join X religion, bro. That'll fix everything.
It's like the reputation. What's the reputation?
Wait, what did he just say?
You've seen. Like, you go on whatever podcast. Are those the same women of our grandmothers and great grandmothers? No, it's completely different.
There's not a ton of
Michael.
Orthodox Jews and traditional Catholics on that podcast, but
So many people on that podcast identify as being that way. Yes. Many of them identify as being traditional Catholics who are not, traditional Jews who are not. This is affirming Pearl's stance. Just because...
Yeah, and go watch Simone and Malcolm Collins did a video on this, Catholics and their fertility rate. It turns out even when you sort for religiosity, not just people who call themselves Catholics, these stats do not actually show themselves to be that much better. And my reasoning for this is that it has less to do with your religious prescription and your religious theology that you hold. It has more to do with the community and these other factors that tend to benefit the strength of a marriage. I'd say the theology itself is only a small portion of what leads to a successful marriage.
They identify that way. You don't see them that way because you don't believe that they are.
But and perhaps there's a reason for that.
And you got to ask like the reputation. What's the reputation of Catholic girls?
Well, what do you mean? I mean, again,
That's my point. My point is they have if there was an abundance of wives in church, Michael, the men would be lining up to go.
but they do.
Men
The
are
traditional
leaving,
churches.
Men are leaving the church.
If Catholic, would you convert because of the Pope? I could have converted to Catholicism anyway. I chose not to. Remember, I'm Orthodox. I can go to any Catholic church and take communion. They just can't come to our church and take communion. We don't consider them.
Yeah, that's not okay, but Andrew, that's not really an argument for orthodoxy. That's basically saying, that's actually a really dumb argument. You're basically saying we supersede your church by, you're basically saying you don't disavow the Catholic Church disavowed you. It's not that we're not allowed to come take your sacraments because you say no. It's because we are casting you off as being different from us, whereas you are trying to appeal to us. So it's actually like a we don't want your communion because ours is better kind of argument, not a we're not good enough for you. That doesn't really make any sense. If you wouldn't allow us to come and have your communion, why would you come and have ours? Right? That doesn't really make any sense unless we were the superior church. That doesn't make any sense. So that's not really a good argument at all. But anyway.
Them to be part of the actual Catholic Church. And so no, I would not. I'll never convert to anything from Orthodoxy ever. Never.
Under the age of 35, young men, church participation is going down altogether, but young men are leaving the church.
But what about the traditional parishes?
The traditional parishes,
They're exploding, and it's all
Yes, they are. He's right about that.
young people. I mean, the median age is like 22 in these parishes, and it's largely young men. So I totally grant you that a lot of modern religion has become quite effeminate and has driven men away.
Right, but I'm saying the Catholic Church is not exempt. It's absolutely not exempt. I've seen a lot of the same trends in the Catholic Church.
I guess.
Doesn't Tom Hanks identify as being Orthodox? Orthodox what?
My confusion is, though, you bring up these statistics, and so then we acknowledge the statistics that show that if one gets married, assuming that divorce is not a sacramental reality, that the likelihood of divorce goes way down. But then when we say that, you instantly say, well, actually now the statistics aren't worth anything because young people are different.
Wait, say that again? Sorry.
So
wait.
We agree that the numbers for Catholics, Jews, Muslims, Orthodox Jews and Muslims, divorce numbers are way lower. And you acknowledge those statistics.
I would say way lower. 30% is not way lower. That's still an egregious number. And I mean, for that you have to sort by religiosity, and even then it's not that low. If you look at like people who identify, it's basically the same. Especially if you look at like Protestants or non-denominational, it's extremely weak. So I don't know if this if you're religious, then your divorce rate goes way down, and it's a lie because it construes that the solution is just convert to X religion and then that will solve everything, which is not true. Because it's not the religion itself, it's the community and the benefits that community provides around it that actually give the benefits.
Not way lower.
Yeah, I agree with him.
No, I don't.
You don't? Okay, all right.
No, because most of those include women over a certain age.
Right, you're saying the young people, it's totally different.
Time, Michael.
So what is...
Wait, Pearl's making a good... I never thought about this, actually. I've never heard this one from Pearl before. That's actually true. Oh, so she's but couldn't you make that argument for anybody? Your argument would have to then be that Orthodox or traditional marriages are older in the church, which wouldn't they skew older, which doesn't really make sense at all. That doesn't really sound like a sensible argument. So no, actually, that doesn't make sense, Pearl.
That's the same thing. Like the time my parents got married in is completely different.
So
than
what
the time
changed
today.
other than now they have so they meet on apps rather than at bars, and that's the big change. That's why we can't believe the statistics anymore.
Well, the average marriage is 7 years now, Michael.
Right, but we've had divorce, expanded divorce for a long time.
And what's happened to the rate since we've had it, Mr. Knowles? Has it gone down or has it gone up?
Had no-fault divorce in America since 1969. So,
and what's that done for divorce?
I acknowledge these are, by historical standards, relatively novel, but we're still talking like 50 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not a long time.
More than 50 years.
Okay, what's his argument? He just pointed out that that's not really an argument. He just said, oh, but divorce has been around, or no-fault divorce has been around for a long time. Yeah, and the divorce rates have been climbing for a long time. Okay, your point.
I don't, I just think a lot of times I hear you guys' advice to go to church and find a good woman, and I don't.
No, I'm pissed. I've actually, because Michael Knowles has dodged this entire interview. He hasn't given a concrete prescription or even a accurate description of the problem at all. He's basically, Pearl's just been lambasting him with red pill talking points, and he's just been doing his best to keep his head above water. I want to hear him actually say what he believes and tell me something that I can actually counter argue.
I don't necessarily think it's bad advice in general, but again, I think that times have changed, and I think a lot of times you guys are a bit out of touch with what the average man is going through in this country.
Well, what do you mean by the average man, I guess? Men come in all shapes and sizes. So,
what the fuck does that even mean? A little smarmy Jew smile. What do you mean, the average man? Don't you know there's no such thing as average? No man is truly average. What does that mean? Fuck you. Like, what kind of fucking rebuttal is that?
Let's get into the particulars. Okay. The men of average height who make an average wage, right? All these things are tracked by the way we can determine them. What's the average wage for men, the average height for men, what's the average, home size for men, blah, 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 blah. Whatever falls under that category, they're having a real fucking hard time. That's what she means by that.
Acknowledging the fears of the modern...
Do you think men have valid fears?
Well, so it's not an objection. I just realized that if this was a logical, formal debate, you can't say, what do you mean by average? Unless it's actually relevant to some kind of a rebuttal, because you can't object to her using the word average unless you phrase the objection. Because he didn't say what was wrong with her use of the word average. He just said, average. It's like, yeah, we're talking about the average man struggling with marriage. We're talking about our prescription of marriage or not to the average man. So it's literally in the question. Like, what do you need to know about the word average, Knowles?
And getting married, do you think any of it's valid, or do you think they're making it up?
Yeah, I think that marriage entails risk.
Okay.
But
so this is interesting. This is basically the stereotypical Daily Wire neo-trad conservacuck argument, which is, yeah, it's risk. Yeah, it's risk, but everything's risky. So I was right. So he's just another one of those.
Ways to mitigate risk.
There are
it's
ways.
A natural institution.
Correct. There are ways to mitigate risk.
Yeah.
But
you can mitigate risk of Russian roulette by putting an extra. You can make it in a 12 shot instead of a 6. There you go. Now you only have a 6% chance of getting shot in the head instead of 12. There you go.
It is normal. What does that even mean? I hate that shit.
Like, because I don't know, when you talk about this stuff, you guys are just...
He's basically deconstructing, like, Destiny. He's acting like Destiny right now, where he's just pointing out random objections with no actual basis. You can't just point out random words and object to them without any actual foundation for your objection. You can't just be like, Yeah, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? What do you mean by average? What do you mean by normal? It's like, you fucker, like, you need an actual basis for your argument if you're gonna contend with one of my words that I use. You can't just randomly start attacking and lambasting everything you see in sight. There should be a terminology for that where it's really you just start biting at every word your opponent says without any actual foundation for your attack. You're just kind of pitbulling them.
You guys, but
Please, generalize.
Sorry.
It's okay.
But sometimes I'm just like,
Now, listen, I do want to answer this question on Hungary, but you'll have to send it in the form of a super chat because I'm raising cash.
how do you not see where the men are coming from? You know, I've talked to men that did the exact same thing. That they took you guys' advice to a T.
What's our advice? Our advice is
okay,
just
to marry. I've seen
married.
a lot of stuff from the Daily Wire.
Yeah.
Okay, might be you, might be other guys that say get married young, right?
yeah, it's good.
To sign up. Okay, but I'll see guys that take you guys' advice, and sometimes it ruins their.
Okay. All right, Stephen. I notice your comment here. Let me refute what you're saying real quick. Marriage is a gift from God. Saying don't get married is going against God. Okay. Would you advise that Satanists...
That's what kind of argument is that? Marriage is a gift from God. Do you think it's accurate to describe the institution of marriage as a gift from God? Did God just he sent down on a golden ray of light, here is the document of marriage? No. It's not even an accurate way to phrase the nature of marriage as a gift from God. So I would just refute that.
get married in a satanic wedding where they cut open a goat and do a sacrament to the devil. Would you recommend that, Stephen?
Yummy goat.
I mean, it's marriage, right? Would you recommend that they do that and that it's actually against God for them not to do that? Go ahead, Stephen. I'll wait for your answer here. I'll wait for your answer. Would you?
Marijuana is a gift from God because God created all living things, including the plants. Therefore, if you don't take and smoke marijuana, therefore you're denying a gift from God because God created all the plants for you. Right? So if you don't I'm sorry. That's his argument.
Do you recommend that Satanists do a black sacrament underground marriage? Because otherwise it goes against God. Would you recommend it? Would you, Stephen? Join us over at the...
All right, so yeah. Let's conclude what we heard. Basically, Pearl is lambasting fucking Michael Knowles. Michael Knowles is a talking piece of the Daily Wire. He just gives the typical... He gave no real answer to anything aside from just pointless objections and trying to keep his head above water against Pearl's filibustering of red pill points. And the only real thing I heard from him was the typical conservacuck neo-con argument, which is just, oh yeah, marriage is a risk, but you can mitigate risk, and it's your duty to marry, and God hates you if you don't. And yeah, it's just bullshit arguing. And yeah, I've heard it 3 other times from Matt Walsh, Ben Shapiro, and Peterson, and everybody else on the Daily Wire. Although Peterson uses a slightly different, because he's not religious. But yeah, it's kind of gay. It goes to show the Daily Wire has a set of talking points that they're all forced to be in alignment with, which makes them kind of puppets. But anyway, that is my final take on this video. I hope you all enjoyed. I will see you all again very, very soon. Take care.